Hello friends, good morning. The weather is finally starting to cool down here in the Ozarks. The trees are beginning to turn shades of red, orange, and yellow, and I can't help but feel that joy of fall being here. As we fade into fall here, it brings a sense of preparation for the coming months. That's what I wanted to discuss with you today. As the homemaker, how do you prepare your home for the upcoming winter months? Do you prep food for your freezer? Do you can? Do you have to prepare for heat outages or electrical outages? So grab a cup of coffee and let's chat about how we can live frugally through the upcoming winter months. I like to start the oven shortly after I get up in the morning and get something cooking for the day ahead. That way, with school and activities, I'm not also left trying to figure out a meal. I'm just throwing a couple of chicken quarters into a cast iron skillet and seasoning them. Then I'm going to throw them in the oven and forget about it for a couple of hours. I'll just cook them really low, slow, and I'll figure out something to do with them for lunch. One thing I am huge on prepping in this house is breakfast. I feel like the mornings just go so much smoother when you don't have to worry always about breakfast. So I am making sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwiches, and I'm just going to put them together and put them in the freezer. A lot of times, if my kids don't eat them, my husband brings them to work. But I often prep a lot of breakfast food. There's a lot of pancakes, there's breakfast burritos, there's breakfast sandwiches. I like to make a huge batch of eggs at the beginning of the week, and my kids usually will eat on those throughout. And then whatever we have left, I'll put into like a breakfast burrito or a breakfast hash, something like that. I tend to use leftover ingredients to make a new recipe, and if we're not going to eat it right away, I'll throw it in the freezer. My older two kids do homeschool curriculum online, so you don't often see them in the videos because they're usually in the background doing their own thing. But my younger two boys, we all do school together. We do it in workbooks. So they kind of just follow me throughout at least the earlier portion of the day. And as they eat breakfast or as I'm prepping things or cooking or whatever I'm doing, even cleaning, they usually will follow me along with their schoolwork, and we just kind of work on it as we go. They are also still very young. My son Lincoln is 7, he's doing second grade, and my son Theo is 5, and he is doing kindergarten. So because they're young, we often take breaks in between subjects. They'll run outside and usually go dig in the dirt. They have a bunch of like those trucks that they'll load dirt in, and they drive around in the dirt. So often they actually have to come back in and wash up and change before we get moving on to the next school work. Before we moved down here from Chicago, we had virtually no preparation needed for winter. Winter was a lot different up there. It was a ton of snow and a ton of ice, but the roads were flat, so we could all still drive on them. We all learned how to drive in snow, and you just kind of get up early and deal with the conditions. Down here, it's almost impossible. When we get a snowstorm, they completely shut down the entire town. So preparation is a huge thing down here. So when fall usually hits is when we start loading up our freezer. We make sure that we have meat on hand. We make sure we have a ton of firewood because we often have power outages and heat outages here when ice storms hit. So we have to be able to light fires in our fireplace and be able to cook on those as well. So we need it for heat and for food during the winter time. So you will start to see in my videos me making a lot extra of things to put aside in the freezer to kind of prepare for winter. So we have food. The stores, before, like when we're expecting a storm, the stores actually do start running out of the basics. So I try to be stocked up on whatever we can. But with that being said, I still do try to do it very low budget. I try to do a lot of soups come winter time because they're very filling. If you have any leftovers, you can freeze them. So I do a lot of soups. I do a lot of heartier meals. That way it kind of makes it stretch. And then I also do choose groceries that I can cook on the fire. So we have a hook in there and I can hang a pot to cook, soups and stuff like that, chilies. And then we also do cook breakfast stuff. We'll cook eggs, we'll cook potatoes, bacon, we'll toast bread on the fire. I'm very intentional about the groceries that I get in winter so I can prepare to cook them if we don't have any power. I don't know if you can see our new kitten in the fireplace behind me. I'm hoping that it's not going to be a problem when we start lighting fires in the fireplace. We're going to have to put up a gate or something. I've never had this issue, so if you have any suggestions, or do they just know not to go in there? I'm not sure, but we keep catching our new kitten in the fireplace. So I'm so hopeful that it is not going to be an issue when we start lighting fires. Now that Theo is in kindergarten, it's so funny because he gets so excited about every single thing that he accomplishes. So right here, he was going through his sight words and he was practicing reading, and he was so happy that he got a sticker for that page, meaning he completed it and he could move on. But he's watched Lincoln the last few years doing school, and Lincoln is very different. He is very, very smart. He tests ahead an entire grade and a half every time he's tested. So he has, I feel like I'm just kind of a guide when I'm teaching him, because I will read the instructions and I don't feel like I really have to go over things. I do, but I almost feel like it's like he's like humoring me, like, sure, go ahead and read me the instructions, mom. It's just so natural for him. As the kids are finishing up their schoolwork for the day, I'm going to start on lunch. I'm making homemade tortillas and we have that chicken in the oven. I'm just going to debone it, put it on the tortillas, and make like a homemade sauce to put on them. If you have not made homemade tortillas, I highly suggest you try it out. It is a lot easier than I ever thought it would be. I will go ahead and put my recipe that I use down in the description box below, but it is super easy and it comes together very, very quick, and there's barely any ingredients. I don't know why I was so intimidated by this for so long, but I'm glad that I started making these. And now my kids are actually like, these are the best tortillas that we've ever had. And my daughter keeps telling me to store them, but I'm not sure if it actually will freeze well or not. So if you have tried that, please let me know, because they're a little thicker than normal tortillas from the store, and they're very, very good, but I just don't know if they'll keep well. The recipe says to knead the dough for 10 minutes, so that's what I'm doing here. And then you will make them into small balls and then flatten them out with a rolling pin. We have also made these over a fire, like in a cast iron, and they turned out really good. So you can do them on the fire, on a grill, and I'm just going to do them in a cast iron here. I made a simple garlic buffalo sauce and then also a honey mustard sauce. So the kids told me which sauce they wanted on theirs. I drizzled it on top of the chicken, and then some of them wanted cheese, so I put that on there and just cut them, and they loved them. They said, Lincoln said it was the fourth best meal that I have ever made. So I'm not sure what the other three are. He didn't tell me, but I will take that as a win. I was wanting to prepare a couple jars of broth for recipes and to put in the fridge. So I am going to boil some chicken and get that going so we have broth. And then I'm also going to use the chicken and some of the broth for dinner tonight. I'm going to make a chicken and gravy over mashed potatoes. If you are looking for a good meal that does well in the freezer, this chicken and gravy is a great meal to do. I also had some apples that I needed to do something with, and we're right about to go to the store. So I tried to go through our ingredients that we have and prep them a certain way or put them in dishes so they don't go bad, and that way we're still using them. So we have a couple apples I needed to do, and my son asked me for an apple pie, but we didn't really have enough for that. So the recipe said it was a Swedish apple pie, and I'll again go ahead and put the recipe down in the description box below. But basically it was just like cinnamon, sugar, you put it on apple slices, mix it up really well, and then you almost make I want to say cake, but it's kind of a crust too. It's like a cross between a cake and a pie crust that you put over top of the apples and then bake it. This was the first time I made this recipe, and it was very good. I don't even usually like apple pie, but I liked this. I served it warm and did a drizzle of caramel over top, and then I served it with a scoop of ice cream, vanilla ice cream on top. It actually turned out so good that I believe I'm going to make it for Thanksgiving. We do a huge Thanksgiving every year, and I usually bring a couple desserts. So I think I'm going to be bringing this for Thanksgiving this year. This recipe I also chose because, like I said, we were about to go grocery shopping and I don't have a stocked pantry right now. So this recipe needed very minimal ingredients. So if you like stuff like this, I highly suggest that you try it. It was very good and it's very budget friendly. I ended up with 2 large jars of chicken broth, and then I also take the bones and I have them in a stock pot that goes for a while to make a bone broth. Now I'm moving on to finishing dinner. The kids wanted mashed potatoes. Usually this recipe, I will make homemade noodles, so it'll be like a chicken and noodles type of recipe. Not soup, but it's almost like a gravy, but it's something I think that they do a lot in the South, and I started making that years ago. It's like I think they call it like a Southern noodle. But anyway, the kids did not want that this night. They wanted the chicken over mashed potatoes. So that is what I'm doing here. I'm making a big thing of mashed potatoes because my daughter also likes doing pierogies with the leftover mashed potatoes. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.